Okay, so Terminator Dark Fate, bad film. It's not good. I think that's been pretty well established on this channel at this point. If you disagree, that's okay. You're allowed to have bad taste. I can't say that. I've already done a video talking about why that film is bad. But today I thought I would do something slightly more constructive and talk about ways to make good new films in the Terminator franchise. Of course, Terminator Dark Fate decided to ignore all films in the Terminator franchise except the first two, which I think is a great decision. But then it made the mistake of being bad itself. So this didn't really help anything. But if we work with the premise that we're making a direct sequel to Terminator 2, if we take that premise of we're making a film that only acknowledges the first two Terminator films as canon, and we would talk about ways that you could make a film good from that starting point, I wonder what we might come up with. Loads of people seem to think that it just can't be done and that we should leave Terminator well alone, and while I can definitely see why someone might think that, I disagree. I think it's totally still possible to make good Terminator films. Especially when, in doing that, you decide to ignore most of them, like Dark Fate did. Today I'm going to be pitching premises for these films. Now, that's not to say that I think if the team behind Dark Fate made films with these premises that it would be good. I think you'd probably need a competent team to make a good film. But the premise of Dark Fate is fundamentally flawed. The premise is that in Terminator 2, Sarah and John actually managed to stop Judgment Day. Judgment Day never happened. This is absolutely consistent with the ways that many people interpret the events of Terminator 2. However, if Judgment Day never happened and Skynet never existed, then how could we make a new Terminator film? There are no more Terminators, so we have no central premise. The villains had been defeated, so there are no more villains. The villains were literally erased from time. Well, the writers came up with an insultingly simple solution. They write in a new villain that's literally just an exact clone of Skynet, in every possible way, except it's called something else and has a very slight redesign, where they've changed it just enough so that they can sell new toys, but not so much that the brand isn't recognizable. Hang on, what? How did this footage of Force Awakens get in here? What? Good call, guys. This movie is gonna make money for sure. Oh no! Oh, god damn, Variety, you guys got enough ads there. There's a video ad running on your video player. There's a second video ad running in the corner, which itself is getting in the way of another ad directly behind it, and also isn't the only ad that's getting in front of that poor Microsoft ad. And then there's that, and then there's... Do you guys like money? Hang on. I think we were here to talk about Terminator. Dark Fate has a bad premise. Copy and pasting the old premise into the new film so that you can just do it again isn't only creatively bankrupt, it also goes against the themes of Terminator 2. I've already been over this in my review of Dark Fate, but in short, this undoes the victories of the previous films, making the efforts that our heroes went to pretty much pointless. If you want to continue to have conflicts in this world so you can continue to tell stories there, great. It's fantastic even. But why not make those conflicts part of a natural progression from the events of the previous films, instead of just going, and then it happened again? That's just a bad premise. It would take a very skilled team to make a very good film out of the premise of Terminator Dark Fate. So let's just scrap it and come up with some good new ideas for new Terminator films. Many people think you can't do it. Many people think that after Terminator 1 and 2, they tell a complete story. But Hollywood is going to make new films in the Terminator franchise anyway, so let's talk about ways that I think you could make them good. At least in terms of a premise. Beyond that, you've still got to write them well. Hollywood, I know that can be tricky for you, but let's just start at the first hurdle, shall we? Pitch 1. Terminator Zero. Okay, so it's kind of a pretentious name for a Terminator prequel, but we've got T1 and T2, so T0, that's the name I'm going with for this. So this is really the obvious Terminator film to make. In fact, I'm quite surprised they haven't made it yet. Unlike most prequels, this prequel will take place several decades after the original film is set, in the future war. The reason it is a prequel though, I haven't just forgotten what the word prequel means, is that this film leads directly into the events of Terminators 1 and 2, having an ending where John Connor sends Kyle Reese and a reprogrammed T-800 back in time to protect himself and his mother. This is something we already know has to have happened in at least one version of the timeline, or the first two films would just not be able to happen at all. So a movie that follows these events would be a natural addition to the Terminator franchise. Follow the war for a little while, and Skynet is losing but still clinging on, and what's this? They've got some secret plan to win the war? What could it be? Oh! They plan on sending some Terminators back in time to kill Sarah or John Connor. Skynet gets close to enacting this plan, actually succeeding in sending back 2 Terminators. But in a last stand, the human resistance is able to capture the time machine and send back 2 protectors, Kyle Reese and, of course, a reprogrammed T-800. And I think it'd be also pretty cool if you gave both those characters, actually decently sized roles in the actual film as well. This would also be a great time to kill off John Connor respectfully, and in a way that's thematically pertinent rather than thematically shit. John will have known for a long time that this was going to happen. These events were what his life was leading towards, and by sending Kyle Reese back in time to become his father, he's creating himself. Ew. Making this a great time to put an end to the story of this iconic character. He's finally closed the loop, and his journey is over. But let's be real, that's the obvious choice. That's the very basic, okay, here's the obvious Terminator movie to make movie. What if you want to do something, a little less obvious? What if you actually want to make a sequel to Terminator 2? Well, pitch 2. Terminator Aftermath. You see, it's a clever title because Skynet would have functioned using math. And this is after Skynet, so it's aftermath. The explaining the joke isn't funny, and I don't know why I still do it. Of all the movies I'm here to pitch today, I think this one would be the least commercially viable. It won't have the normal flashy Terminator things that you can put in the trailers, it doesn't have Arnie in it, and it won't have any Terminators in it at all, making it the hardest one to market to a fan of the Terminator movies. Still probably wouldn't lose $100 million though. Sarah and John absolutely did manage to prevent Judgment Day and the war with the machines in Terminator 2. That whole apocalypse just didn't happen. Well, now it's 2019 and the world hasn't been destroyed by machines, but 2 people's lives have been destroyed by machines. That being Sarah and John Connor, who have no doubt both been scarred for life by their experiences with murder robots, and are possibly the only people in the world who fully understand firsthand the risks that are involved with creating sentient AI. We already have seen Sarah like this in Terminator 2, but now John is almost certainly in this state as well. He's not the resistance leader anymore, he's just a normal dude who knows something that most people don't. And of course that knowledge has a good chance to absolutely cripple him emotionally. Both of them would be terrified of technology in general, but especially of the research that's currently being done into machine learning, which is producing some incredible results. Hey, what's your favourite movie? Yes. Take Sarah and John on a deep personal journey where they're both veterans of a war that never was. Explore their struggles to function as people. Explore the fact that they're almost certainly on the run from the law after the events of Terminator 2, and explore what kind of crazy measures they might go to try and prevent the development of AI. If you want to tell a new story, why not tell a story that's a natural progression from where we left off, instead of just pressing the reset button? But okay, that's only really going to interest people who are really invested in these characters specifically. While it might actually be good, it's still quite niche, and might still be a letdown to a lot of people who are fans of the Terminator franchise. So what if you actually want to have Terminators in your Terminator movie? Pitch 3. Terminator Survivors. I'm not married to these titles. We open sometime in the 1980s or 90s. A Terminator arrives back from the future to kill a target, and a Protector arrives to protect that target who manages to kill the Terminator. All before the target even knew that there was a Terminator trying to kill them. Who is the target? Well, it could really have been John or Sarah, but since the Terminator died before it reached them, it doesn't really matter. The Protector dies to stop the Terminator, but the Terminator isn't totally destroyed. It's just neutralized. The point of opening the film with these events is to establish that, hey, despite the fact that the War with the Machines timeline was erased, there's still one Terminator around. And since it was neutralized, well, I guess it belongs to whoever picked it up first. Cut to 2019, where we learn that this Terminator eventually fell into the hands of a scientist who, before they died, managed to reprogram the Terminator to take care of their child. Let's call this child Lucy, because it doesn't matter. Lucy is now in a similar situation to the situation John was in Terminator 2, except she doesn't have a Terminator trying to kill her. She just has a T-800 at her command. While Lucy herself isn't an evil person, she's probably still a little too young to be in charge of a murder robot, and uses it, let's say, a little irresponsibly. Enter Sarah and John Connor, and I've already told you what they would be like now in the previous pitch. They'd be terrified of the idea and trying to do anything they can to prevent a machine uprising. I mean, at the end of Terminator 2, they killed good Arnie just to prevent this technology from being studied by other humans and being used to create Skynet. So what are Sarah and John gonna do when they discover that there's still a Terminator knocking about the place? Well, obviously they're gonna try and destroy it. And now we have our central conflict set up for the film. Lucy is in charge of a murder robot, which obviously she would be quite attached to. Sarah and John want to completely destroy that murder robot so that it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. Now, neither side is evil here, but neither side is really going to come across as that good either. What Lucy wants is to just be allowed to do whatever she wants with this giant murder robot, and what Sarah and John want is simply to kill the relatively innocent parental figure of a young girl. You could even show him hugging her to just pull at the audience's heartstrings. Of all these premises, this one's by far my favourite. I would give so much to see this movie done well. Both sides have totally understandable motivations, it's a small-scale conflict, and there's nuance to it, along with a million interesting directions you can actually take it from that starting point. But hey, while this one is my favourite, there's no reason you couldn't do all three. Start with Terminator Aftermath, reintroducing the fans to Sarah and John Connor. Then move on to Terminator Zero, revealing at the end that, hey, they didn't just send back 2 Terminators to kill a target. They sent back 3. Guess we're going to have to send back a third protector to stop that third Terminator, which ties directly into the beginning of Terminator Survivors. Although I feel at this point just wishing for one single good new Terminator movie is a ridiculous fantasy dream that's beyond the realms of human ability. But hey, if we do want a good new Terminator film, perhaps a good place to start would be for the potential writers of said film to learn some, or any, creative writing skills. You know, it can't hurt. Skillshare is an online learning community for creators. Whether you want to learn about design, business, or much, much more, Skillshare has over 30,000 classes to help you out. Fun fact about the number 30,000, it's actually the amount that the creators of Dark Fate wish they'd lost at the box office. Premium membership will give you unlimited access so that you can join the classes and learn skills like how not to ruin the Terminator franchise, or any other handy skill you might want to learn. Whether you want to fuel your curiosity, creativity, or even career, Skillshare is the perfect place to keep you learning and thriving. Skillshare is the perfect place to keep you learning and thriving. Skillshare has a community of over 7 million creators. Fun fact about the number 7 mil, once a part of this community you can join groups to give and receive feedback on projects, or simply talk to people who have the same interests that you do. One such interest for me you may be surprised to learn is digital design, which is why I've been particularly interested in taking this class by Temi Coker. I mean, just look at how beautiful his work is. That's the thing he's showing you how to do. Skillshare is giving away free, unlimited access as a 2-month trial to anyone who clicks the link in the description below. So why not try it out? But other than that, I hope you've enjoyed your window into my stupid brain for the day. Goodbye.